I was thinking a little bit about Starfield and why it's bothering me. I haven't quite been able to put a nail on it yet, but I have managed to find something to point out, something to talk about, something that I don't think anybody has really talked about yet. Because right now we're still in the middle of the hype phase. We have people who think Starfield can outdo Tears of the Kingdom and Nintendo and become like the game of the year. And of course, it's not going to happen. Tears of the Kingdom is going to be the game that is remembered as being one of the best open world games ever made and one of the best games Nintendo has ever put out, while Starfield is just going to be another line of failures in another entry in the long line of failures from Bethesda, right? No matter how many awards it gets, no matter how much it sells, no matter how much people claim to love it, at the end of the day, Starfield is just going to be another Fallout 3, another Skyrim, another Fallout 4, right? It's going to be the same thing we've seen over and over again. And obviously, Starfield can't compete with Zelda, right? It's not even close. And, I was thinking a little bit about how Starfield has procedurally generated maps, right? It has like a handful of handcrafted areas for quests and stuff like that. And then you have those big, expansive No Man's Sky planets. And I was thinking how underwhelming that is. Like, how much better it would be if each individual planet was completely handcrafted with unique environments and ecosystems and biological life forms. Like, what a cool game it would be to explore a strange alien world in this RPG setting and like completely open-ended, being able to go wherever you want and explore and like have all these crazy adventures. Like if only somebody would make a game like that. And it kind of dawned on me, that there is a game like that. There is a game where you can explore a giant sci-fi environment, completely non-linearly, and just get into all these crazy adventures in a handcrafted environment that's very unique, very distinct, nothing else like it in the entire industry, and it came out in 2015. I am, of course, talking about Xenoblade Chronicles X, a game that is still not available on Switch, by the way. It's still a Wii U exclusive, right? From Nintendo, developed by Monolith Soft. Xenoblade Chronicles X in 2015 did a more impressive Starfield on the Wii U than what Bethesda is doing here. Because I don't think most people really appreciate the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles X is not procedurally generated. Like, it has entire, like, these it has caves. It has varied ecosystems. It has like things to find, things to explore, all these quests, all these things to do, like, hundreds of hours of content, right? Now you could argue that like there are issues with the game and the general structure and stuff like that, particularly with the writing. Like, there are things to criticize about Xenoblade Chronicles X, but I don't think there is any denying that when it comes to exploring a strange alien landscape, nothing even comes close. Like, nothing in the industry has even come close to managing what Xenoblade Chronicles X has accomplished. And Starfield is just going to be another Mass Effect. It's going to be a boring, uninspired, generic Star Trek inspired like knockoff product that we've seen billions of times before. Like, the most interesting thing people are talking about is that, like, oh man, is this set in the future of Fallout and before the Elder Scrolls? Which I don't know exactly how that works, but like, people are like, arguing about like timeline stuff and like, ooh, is this going to be the beginning of a new franchise? It's not, okay? Like, Bethesda's on the way out. Like, they can't really compete. They're a declining studio. And, much like Blizzard, much like every other studio out there, like, people don't want to admit it. Until, like, Bethesda literally goes bankrupt, you're going to see people, like, call them the best in the industry at what they do. And that hasn't been true in a long time, since at the very latest Breath of the Wild. But, I would argue to a certain extent that's been a trend that we've been slowly going down since Fallout 3 launched, right? We've seen better open world games. We've seen better RPGs. We've seen better storylines in games. We've seen your dialogue matter more than in like the average Bethesda game, right? We've seen like, creators just put out better products than what Bethesda can ever manage. But the only reason anybody like cares about Bethesda at all Like, oh man, remember when Skyrim first came out and we were all laughing about the arrow in the knee joke? Like, remember like how we played Skyrim and then we started walking in all directions, like marveling at this vast open world and never discovered the plot because nobody cares about the plot in Skyrim. Like, that is the Skyrim experience. Like, it sells itself based on its like generic setting and like open world environment, but has nothing really of value to offer. Whereas something like Zelda, something like Xenoblade, any Nintendo RPG really just has all the depth you could possibly want in its general design and its structure and its writing and its gameplay mechanics. Like, Nintendo stomps Bethesda. They stomp everyone else in the industry, but not enough people are willing to admit it. Starfield is not going to be as good as Xenoblade Chronicles X.